Hey guys, Brandon Hayes here, and I'm going to be covering a couple of topics today as it pertains to some training topics as it pertains to Zija. And we're going to be talking first of all about a roadmap of how to recoup your initial investment, because a lot of people, they say, okay, now I'm started, I'm in, now what? What now? And so we're going to talk about how to recoup your initial investment. I'm going to give kind of a generic scenario of how that works. And then we'll talk about a couple of other training topics about how to begin prospecting, how to begin building a list, reaching out to people, contacting, exposing, inviting, and things of that nature too. So first of all, we'll talk about, for the purposes of recouping your initial investment. Now, of course, Zija has just added some pretty lucrative bonuses, put some more money on the table, and so this is going to affect what you make and how you get started. So I want to talk about that as well, and if we have time on the back end, I might even do a little bit of a training on the new comp plan changes, so just so you guys know. Alright, so there are 3 ways to get started. 330, 660, 1320. Now if you're me, there's one way to get started, 1320, and I'll talk about why. With this package, you get 32 samples. With this package, you get 16 samples and 8 samples here. Okay? Now, for obvious reasons, you're going to be able to impact more people quicker with this package, right? So, I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why I suggest anyone that's serious about the business get started here. There's an obvious reason, and I've already given it, 32 samples. So instantly you're able to, your friends, family, coworkers, as you listen at work and people say, man, my back hurts, or man, I need to lose a couple of pounds, or whatever it is, you're instantly able to respond with the product. So that's one reason. But here's the main reason for me. This was enough for me to say 1320 is how I'm getting started. This was enough for me. 50% more money for 6 months. Your first 6 months of the business, the company says, okay, Travis, obviously you're serious about the business. Obviously you're doing this to become profitable because it's a business. We're going to incentivize you and help you recoup your initial investment quicker, right? And help you make more money, more longer, right? And so that's what this is. That's the primary reason I did this package, was that alone. But there's also other benefits. This package, you get a bunch of free stuff. I think this comes with like $600 worth of free stuff. So it's $1320, but it ends up being like $1,900 worth of stuff. You get a free shaker bottle, well, multiple free shaker bottles. You get basically a business in a box. I mean, they have these new welcome kits that walk you through exactly what the first 48 hours of your business should look like. Basically 98% of the nuts and bolts, the mechanics of that, the how-to of the business, and then the other 2% is just kind of earn as you learn, learn as you go. You're going to be able to be introduced to multiple leaders and resources, and you'll be able to ask questions, and they'll help you fill in the blanks and kind of connect the dots. So this package, you get 50% more for 6 months. With this one, you get 50% more for 3 months. So it's just half the time, right? So half the initial investment. This is a one-time deal. This is not recurring. If Scott and I were to start a business, let's say we started a restaurant, first of all, we couldn't even talk about opening a business. We would pay more than $1320 in licensing and fees just to be allowed to talk about opening a business, right? So we couldn't even do that. But our overhead would be tens of thousands probably a month. Thousands for sure, possibly tens of thousands a month to keep our doors open at our restaurant. Well, this is a one-time deal, and then your only overhead is whatever product you use on a regular basis, right? But this package, so this is half. This is half the samples, half the product for you, and half the 50% extra, but for half the time. Everybody follow me? All right. So this is still a good way to get started, but you're just getting half of this. Now here's probably this is probably the second biggest reason I did this package, because I knew that people do what you do, not what you say. People do what they see, not what they hear, right? What your people see is what your people will be, right? So I knew, and this just made sense to me, duplication. It's all, monkey see, monkey do. I knew that whenever I reached out to, my close friends, my close family, People that, if you're starting a business, if you're starting any business, one of the first things you want to do is you want to reach out to the top people on your list. You want to say, who has some integrity, who has some character, who do I trust? They do things for the right reasons. They're ambitious, they're driven, they're success minded. Who are those people? And I want to reach out to those people first so I can create my board of directors, so to speak, right? And so I knew when I reached out to those individuals for the business, they were going to say, after it's all said and done, they say, I lead them through a process, which we'll talk about that in a second of how to do that. But I lead them through a process, get them educated and understanding, and they say, okay, looks good, I'm ready to rock, Brandon. Then they're going to say, how do I get started? And I'll say, well, there's 3 packages, just like I'm doing for you now. And they say, okay, well, which one did you do, right? That's one of their first questions. Well, which package did I do? Which one am I able to say? This one. Which one, 9 times out of 10, not all the time, but 9 times out of 10, if they're serious about the business, which one do you think they do? That one. Why? Because people do what they see, not what they hear. Now, if I would have gotten, you can get started here, then it's fine. It's okay. I'm just letting you know how this is going to play out in most cases. If you get started here, but then you tell people, but you should get started here, what are they probably going to do? They're going to say, man, you got started there, I'm going to get started there. Which is okay. It's fine. But this allowed me to get off to a little bit of a faster start maybe in the beginning. One, because I had 32 samples. I was making more money, more longer, right? And all of my people were too, right? So not just me, but when I enrolled a couple of people, not only did I have 32 samples, so 32 people being impacted with the product instantly, but they had 32 people each. And then that began to duplicate because they got started here. When they found a couple of business partners, how do you think their business partners enrolled? Right here. So now they've each got 32 and 32 and 32, and so boom, 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 products hitting the street, right? I teach people, get rid of that like it's a disease, like you're a Colombian drug lord. Let that stuff hit the streets, get it in people's bellies, and you'll start seeing some people that will see results in 4 days, 8 days, and some of them will come back and say, man, how do I get more of that stuff? How do I start using that product? And some of them will enroll as customers. All right, everybody follow that so far? Everybody good with that? 3 packages. Here's the benefits and features of each. Anyway, you get in the business no matter what, and any of these are okay. It's not my job to convince you or tell you which way to get started, but I'm forced to give my opinion on which one I think is the best way to get started for various reasons. So, all right. So in this example, we're going to say that you got started here. So we'll talk about, okay, now I'm in. Now what? What do I do now, right? So in this example, we'll say here's you. One of the first, well, the first thing we want to help you do is enroll 2 people, and the reason is because that unlocks the compensation plan. It will make you what's called qualified. Now you're qualified to earn commissions, right? So we want to help you enroll 2 people ASAP. This might be, Joe and Mary, okay? Person number 1, person number 2. We want to help you enroll one on your left, one on your right ASAP. You have 2 teams. This is a binary compensation plan, so just 2 organizations that you're building. And so Joe and Mary, you enroll Joe and Mary. Now, because 9 times out of 10, in the way that we're going to teach you to build a business, we're going to teach you to make a list, contact, expose, invite, and we're going to say, reach out to your top people first, right? If you're starting a business, reach out to your, don't reach out to, broke Uncle Joe who hadn't had a job in 6 years. There's a reason why he hadn't had a job in 6 years, right? Reach out to the people that you look up to. Reach out to the people that are better than you. If you want to create a successful team or a successful organization, you're not going to reach out to the the rookies and the low people on the total on your influence scale. You want to go to the top people first. So we're going to teach you to do that and teach you how to do that, but they're probably going to do what you did. 1320. So let's just say that for this example that they did. Now, because of the new compensation plan changes that have occurred, you gotta bear with me and give me a few minutes because I'm gonna have to do it in my head. But you're gonna get a 25% what's called FSC. Okay, it's 25%. So this is 1,000 PV. Don't get caught up in any of this. This is all on the comp plan. You can check. You don't feel like you have to memorize this. But 1,000 PV, so 25% of that, what's 25% of 1,000?
250.
250.
So what's that total?
500.
500. I'll write this over here. So FSC is 500. Now, the team commissions on this, I believe a couple of these things have changed, and I'm trying to be careful how I say this. But the team commissions on this just is going to be, because you're 50% more, it's 15%, so it's going to be 15% of 1,000. 150. Team 250, you'll hit Team 250 in this example, in this scenario. It's about $200 worth of free stuff. What am I leaving out here?
The builder bonus.
I think they did away with that for the purposes of this promotion.
Oh.
That's why I'm leaving that out. But it could still be there. But I'm pretty sure they did away with it. But that's it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So what is that? 5, 6, 7, 850. Oh, that's not it. What am I leaving out?
Sell your samples.
Samples. How did I forget that? All right. So 32 samples times, and I tell people to sell these for $25. I mean, I've been on the East Coast and the West Coast, man, in a little bit more affluent areas. They sell them for $60 out there. You know, I mean, they sell them for more than what we probably would here. But it's about $35 worth of products. So I found it easy for me to say, hey, Mom, this is $35 worth of products, but I'm going to give it to you for even cheaper than what I paid for it. So I'm not making money off of it. But so it's giving her a discount. So it's helping her. But also, it's helping me recoup my initial investment. Thanks, Mom. Right? You know what I mean? So I went to my low-hanging fruit, so to speak, my closest friends, family, people that would give me $25 just to help me start a business. They don't, even if they didn't get the product, right? But Mom also wanted to lose a little bit of weight, or had some issues and wanted to see some results maybe. So it was helping her, but it was also helping me. So $25 times 32 is $800. So what is that? 8, 950,
1650.
1450. Yeah, 1650. So 1650, and you put in what? 1320. Now let's recap. What have we done? Not much. Sold your samples. Now you can do that as quick as you want, or you can make it take 30 days or 30 years. But you sold some samples and you enrolled 2 people. That's it. Do you have to stop at 2? No. And in fact, I would encourage you not to. So think about, if you enroll another, person number 3, well, there's another 250, right? Person number 4, there's another 250. So that's unlimited. That keeps going. Now, because of the new compensation plan changes, this is pretty cool. We're getting what's called coded bonuses. So this is where it's gonna get fun. So if you, let's say you rank advanced to Builder 500, which is the second rank in our company. Okay, don't get caught up on that, but you rank advanced. Okay, you hit a new rank in the company. Well, let's say Joe here enrolls his own first person. Okay, he enrolls a person here, and it's a Builder System 2. Joe gets $250, just like you did, right?
Yep.
But now, because you're the qualified Builder 500 that helped Joe, and you're probably helping him and helping his team, now the company is going to pay you a coded bonus of 10%. Okay? So 10% of 1,000 is $100. So now, what does that do? That incentivizes you to help Joe to help Bill, or whoever, right? To help Bill get started. Because now the company's not just paying Joe, they're also paying you. Isn't that pretty cool?
Absolutely.
And that goes 6 generations deep. So that's just one example. It keeps going down. So let's say, this guy enrolls his first person. This guy enrolls his. So it can keep going down, but I don't want to confuse you guys. I just want you to understand that you're also getting benefits from helping your people. I love this because here's what it does. It incentivizes the proper activity. It incentivizes leadership duplication, helping people, creating leaders. It incentivizes a rank advancement culture, so helping your people rank advance, and it incentivizes enrolling, an enroller mindset. Not just you enrolling people, but also you helping your people enroll people. So it incentivizes all the right activities that are what make our business profitable, right? So, all right, everybody feel good about this?
Yep.
So in this example that I gave, all you did, you enrolled 2 people, and you sold some samples, and you more than, that was $16.50 for if you can't read it. You more than recouped your initial investment. Now I did this in about 2.5 weeks. You know, you can do it in 2.5 years if you want, but I did this in about 2.5 weeks. You can do it faster. Like I think I heard Kevin. I walked in on him sharing a story about the guy, the 18-year-old. I was in his living room 3 or 4 nights ago, and dude's killing it. He's 18. He did it in 18 hours. So you can do it as fast or slow as you want. Doesn't matter. But in a traditional, I always like to put this in perspective for people. In a traditional business guy, I was sitting down with a lady. She's a self-made multimillionaire up in Jeffersonville, Indiana. And I love her to death. She's awesome. But she said, Brandon, what's the biggest investment I can make today to get started in Zija? I said, well, right about $1,300. She laughed at me. She said, Brandon, that's not an investment. She said, I spent that on the air conditioner today, right? So business owners understand, you know, I mean, this is, Jessie, my better half, she builds websites. She taught herself, she's like, I need a new hobby. So she taught herself how to build websites a year or 2 ago. And she charges $5 grand, 10 grand. You can't get a website for $13.20. You know, the website, you have a back office that's probably, if you paid for it, you probably have to pay $100 grand for it. We have a back office that is free, right? And you get all that. You get the business. You get all that. When my business expanded to Japan, I didn't have to pay for that, right? I got in, and that's it, right? And you can't do that in traditional business. The restaurant that I used to work for, 440 Main, I was the general manager there. Guys, they put up 7 figures to start that business, 7, and then 15 years later, they still have not recouped, you know, the initial investment. Now, when they sell the building and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure they will, and that'll be great. But the point is, in 15 years, most business owners, you know, I won't say most, but in that case, 0, not a red cent of pure profit, right? Guys, I was profitable in my first month in this business. First 2.5 weeks, I was profitable, I was in the green, in the black. And then 18 months later, I was making more money than the people that I was working for at my job, right? Doing it part-time. So I don't know where else you can do that. And, you know, all you did was you enrolled 2 people in sold some samples. Now, if you want to go nuts, then go nuts. Go crazy and enroll 1,000 people and, you know, replace your primary income in a month if you want to. All right, everybody feel good about that?
Yep.
Just enrolled 2 people, sold some samples, boom, you're in the black for doing that, okay? And this new, you know, these new comp plan changes are awesome because it's incentivizing you to not just stop there, but also help those people, right? Help them rank advance, help them enroll a few people, okay? And so that's gonna, you know, it's gonna increase all of these numbers. It's gonna increase your team commissions, your coded bonus. It's gonna increase everything. All right. So I'm gonna erase this. Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay. Now, questions. Anybody have questions about anything that you guys talked about in there at all, or anything that you didn't talk about? Especially, I'd like to hear from a guest perspective. Any questions from you guys about anything that we talked about here, that they talked about in there? Anything that I can answer for you? Crickets? All right, awesome.
Hey, Brandon.
Yeah.
Could I touch on one thing?
Yes.
One of the things that someone said to me after one of these was over, they didn't want to ask during the thing, was, you know, I don't know how I feel about selling those 32 samples. And what I told them was this: every friend you know is buying something. They're buying Monsters, they're buying 5 Hours,
Absolutely.
They're buying Cokes, they're buying things. So why should you be ashamed to go up and say, I want you to try this, right? And
I'm giving you a discount.
it's $25, right? It would be a lot more than this, but I'm giving you a discount. I want you to try this instead. And if they give you a hard time and say, well, I mean, why would I want to pay you $25 for that? Well, you go in the Minute Mart and you buy them for $2.50 a piece every day.
Yeah.
You don't know the people at the Minute Mart.
Yeah.
Mine's better. You're my friend. I want you to try it. It's that simple. And guess what? It's what you said to me. We're friends. Would you try my product? And I said, sure. How much is it? You told me what it cost, and I pulled it out and bought it.
Yep. That's a good point. And, you know, some people, there's different schools of philosophy on the sampling mechanism. You know, my personal philosophy is exactly what Scott just said. We agree 100% on that. I steal his examples a lot of times. And one of them is, if I owned a pizza joint, wouldn't you come buy my pizza? If it was decent pizza and it tasted pretty good, wouldn't you rather support my pizza joint than going to Pizza Hut down the street? Of course, because
I would support yours.
Yeah, because I would support your widget that you're selling, whatever, right? But so some people have different schools of thought on the sampling mechanism. Some people like to give the samples away. You can do that. I've just found that it's kind of a shot in the dark, more so if you do that, because for something that someone doesn't pay for, that a lot of times won't place value on it. They don't know what this stuff is. They don't care. It's not priority for them. It's priority for you. You know the importance. You know what it is and how awesome the product is. But they don't know, right? So I'm going to make someone pay me for a sample with their money or with their time. Now, I'd rather have their time. So a lot of times, nowadays, what I do is I'll say, hey, if you'll come give me an hour of your time, I'll get you a free product sample, right? Because I want them to be educated on what it is they're consuming. Because if they're not, here's what I did in the past. I gave away a couple of samples. And now, I know your friends won't do this, but my friends, they were a bunch of, they just, yeah. So, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, So, I would get in one of my friends' vehicles a week later, and I'd step on it as I sat down in their car. And I'm like, what the heck is that? I paid real money for that, Take this stuff. You said you would. And they say, oh, some lame excuse. Oh, I forgot, or whatever. But if I hand someone $25, I promise you, I'm not going to get in their vehicle next week and see it laying in the floorboard.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to put that in the pocket, right? Because they place value on that. They know the value of it. Does that make sense? So that's the main reason I sell my samples typically, or I make them pay with their time. They're going to pay me with something.
Yep.
The reason is because I want them to place value on it.
Right. And if you're selling them, it's a good idea maybe to call them a trial pack.
Yeah.
Because when you say sample, people think, oh, free sample.
Yeah, people
But
think
if you
free.
say trial pack,
You're right.
it's not even an issue.
The day
Oh,
that
trial
happened,
pack? Yeah.
the same guy didn't look like he was overly excited about selling a few samples. And I said, let me ask you a question. If I could tell you go out and sell those 32 samples, and that would turn into a $25,000 a month income for you, would you do it then? And he was like, well, yeah. And I said, what do you think Kevin and Brandon did when they got started, right? They went out and sold some samples.
Yep.
The guy that was sitting here a minute ago is in real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you go out and get in real estate and then you open your own office, now you got people working for you, and then you open up a worldwide real estate empire, and you got all those people working for you, you still had to start off learning how to sell a house.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Good point, though. Any comments, questions? Because I'm gonna buzz through this stuff.
Let's buzz it.
All right, cool. Peak, pass, and plug. Now, so we say, how do we build the business? And I'm gonna give you some mechanics, some how-to, and all of this stuff. We have it all packaged, and it looks a lot better than me presenting it in our back office. Once you enroll, and you'll be able to go to Zija University. Okay, and Zija University is 98% of everything you need to know about how to build a successful business. How to make this profitable long term and create residual income. Okay, so peak, pass, plug. This is probably the primary business building concept that I use, that all the top leaders, Scott, John, Fabian, Chase, all these guys, Kevin, all these guys, top incomer, they all use this concept, and they might tweak it their own way. We want people to be systematic, but not robotic. Be you, put your flavor on it, but just be systematic, but don't be Brandon Hayes or Scott. Be John, and you know what I'm saying? Be you. So, but the concept is simple, and I'm going to give you the concept, and then I'll also give you a tactic, which what I mean by that is the exact way that I do it. Now you can choose to use that or alter it, tweak it, however you want to, however you want to do it. But the concept is what is important. Concepts stand the test of time. Tactics come and go. Right? Does that make sense? Okay. So peak, pass, and plug. What does this mean? I'll sum it up in a couple of phrases. Get people in front of the info, doing as little talking as possible, and then get them on the phone or in front of someone else. That's it. That's all I do still to this day. I get people in front of the info, doing as little talking as possible, and then I get them on the phone or in front of someone else. That's it. That's really all we do. Now, how we do that is peak, pass, plug. So we peak interest. Peak interest. Okay? Now, what does this look like? It looks like, hey Scott, listen man, I've gotten attached to some very successful people, and I'm pretty excited about it. They're teaching me some stuff, and I know, Scott, you've had a lot of success in the past, and they asked me to make a list of some of the most successful, driven, ambitious people that like to make money, and they like multiple streams of income. And so obviously you're at the top of that list. And so I told them I'd give you a call and reach out to you and see if you'd be open to learning about this project they're doing.
Absolutely.
Piqued his interest, right? Here's what he's probably going to say too. He's probably going to say, "What is it?" So how do I know if I've piqued someone's interest? They say, "What is it?"
That's the question.
Yeah, they say, "What?" Yeah, tell me, what is it? That's how I know I've piqued their interest. Now here's a pitfall or a stumbling block sometimes. Sometimes people answer that question. When they say, "What is it?" they say, "Oh, I've got his interest piqued. He wants to know what it is." And they have a tendency to tell them what it is. Now I'm going to challenge you. Don't tell them what it is. Because you've got their interest piqued. Don't tell them anything until you can show them everything. That's a key phrase. Don't tell them anything until you can show them everything. Okay? So pique interest, then pass to a tool. So Scott says, "What is it?" I say, "Man, listen, like I told you, I've only got just a couple of seconds here. I'm actually walking into a meeting. But what I'll do is I'll send you a link to a couple of quick videos. It'll only take about 15 minutes. And so you think if I shoot you a link to a couple of videos, can you watch it sometime today?"
Yep.
Awesome. What time do you think you can watch it?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. So if I call you at 7:30, you'll have watched it for sure by then.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. I'll call you at 7:30. So I've passed him to a tool. I'm probably going to text him. This is what I typically do. It's my tactic, right? You can pass them to any tool you want, whatever you're comfortable with. For me, I like using the videos because they're free, they're versatile. Most people have a smartphone and they can drop whatever they're doing and watch it right then and there, right? Or an iPad or something like that, So I'll pass them a link to a couple of videos. I usually just text it to them. And I've scheduled a follow-up time. So I'll pass to a tool, okay? And then when I do like a big training event where there's several hundred or even a few thousand in the room, I'll say, "Everybody repeat after me. I am not a tool." And then everybody says it, and then they think about it for a second, and they get a little laugh out of it. So, so don't be a tool. You're not a tool. Then plug. So I've piqued his interest. "Hey Scott, I got something I want you to take a look at. If I shoot you a link to a couple videos, will you take a look at it?" I'm passing him to a tool. I've texted him the links. I've got a follow-up time scheduled. And then, as soon as Scott tells me 7:30, we've got a time scheduled at 7:30 to call. That's an appointment, right? Well, I'm going to then reach out to multiple people in my upline, people that I'm working with that are helping me. And I'm going to say, "Hey, I got a call at 7:30, John. Can you be available?" And I might send that same text to multiple people just to see who's free, right? So whoever responds, if multiple people respond, I'm going to say, "Okay, which one of these fit best with Scott?" Right? And so I'm gonna have someone lined up for the 7:30 plug, and the plug really just means follow up. Okay, that's really all it means. But we're going to plug them into an expert. Okay, so plug them into an expert, and I'll give you it's 3 questions. Same 3 questions. You could follow me around and listen to me do 1,000 follow-ups. And they would sound exactly the same every single time. You would say, "Brandon's boring. This is, this guy is mundane." But be a master of the mundane, because when it works, it works. Keep doing it, right? So this process is what's allowed us to create a duplicatable business where it grows without us. So whether Kevin ever mentions the word Zija again or not, he's still going to earn a huge residual income. And he could sit on his couch in his underwear if he wanted to for the rest of his life. All that guy's got to do at this point is stay alive. So plug into an expert. Here's what that looks like. It's 3 questions, okay? The first question is, did you look? Okay? That's the concept. Now I'll tell you the tactic. So the concept is, did you look? You want to ask them if they looked, or listen. If you send them to a conference call, it's did you listen? Right? Does that make sense? So did you do what you said you would do? Right? Look or listen or whatever tool you sent them to. Did you look? Now here's exactly how I say it. Now you don't have to be Brandon Hayes, but I want to share with you just so you know exactly what I say on a day-to-day basis when I'm asking this question. "Hey Scott, man, listen, did you get a chance to look at those videos like you told me you would?"
Yep.
Awesome. That's what I say. Did you get a chance to look at those videos like you told me you would? Now here's why I say it like that. Because I know people are flaky, and people And not just that, I also know people are busy. He's the CEO of a company. You know, it's very possible that it slipped his mind and forgot to watch the video. Just the reality of it. We're all excited, and this is top priority in our mind, but I know that it's not top priority in his mind yet. It will be one day, but it's not yet, because he just got a call from somebody he probably hadn't talked to in a while, right? It's about something that he doesn't know anything about. So I'm going to say, did you look like you told me you would? Now, there's a lot of psychology behind why I do this. The reason is because I know that, especially with someone as busy as Scott, that's a CEO of a company, I know there's a good chance he didn't look. Even though I did a really good job of reminding, you know, I said, be sure you watch this, and I hyped it up, and I said, this is a big deal. Even though I did a really good job, there's a chance that he might not have looked. So if he says, no, I didn't look, he's going to feel bad. Right? Because I said, did you look like you told me you would? He's going to be like, gosh, I told him I would look at that, and I didn't. I lied, right? So he's going to kind of feel bad. So chances are, he's probably going to drop whatever he's doing, unless it's, you know, super important. He's probably going to, if I say, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in, I'm going to swoop in like the psychological hero, and I'm going to take all the pressure off of him. Because he's going to be thinking, oh my, he's going to get all hot and sweaty. He's going to be thinking, man, I forgot. I didn't look. I told that guy I was going to look at that, and I didn't do it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, Scott, man, no sweat, dude. I know, you're the freaking CEO of a company, man. No big deal. You're busy. I'm busy. We're all busy. But this is a really, really big deal, and I think it could be a fit for you. So I really want you to look at it, because we're moving fast, and we're doing some really big things. Do you think you could look at it like in the next 30 minutes?
Look at it now.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, I tell you what, I'll call you back in 20 minutes then.
Great.
So, right, I swoop in and take all the pressure off of him, because he kind of feels bad. But I'm saying, man, Scott, listen, no big deal, man. You're busy, I'm busy, we're all busy. But this is a big deal. We're moving fast. Can you look at it right now? Right? All right, so did you look? Let's say Scott, he said yes, right? So let's say that he says yes. Yeah, Brandon, I did. So I'll move on to the next question. What did you like? What did you like? Now here's a pitfall. Here's a stumbling block, or you know, sometimes people mess up here. They say, what did you think? I used to say that, and I found out people think all kinds of craziness. So I stopped. I mean, I've gotten on crazy tangents about all kinds of nonsense that has nothing to do with Zija. So I stopped asking people what they think. I don't care what they think. I want to know what they like. And so that's the concept. What did you like? Here's exactly how I say it. Okay, so this is the tactic. Scott, awesome, man. So you did get a chance to look good. Well, listen, what did you like best, whether it's the products, the business, or maybe kind of a combination of the two?
The business, the time freedom.
Awesome. So that's exactly how I say it. Scott, what did you like best, whether it's the products, the business, or a combination of the two? That's how I say it, okay? Here's why. Because I got in too many conversations, especially when I used to say, what do you think? I got in too many conversations of people telling me what they think, and just a bunch of craziness in an hour-long conversation about something that doesn't even matter. And so I started steering people. People are looking to be led. This is all new to them. They have no idea what to say or think or whatever. So I lead people. I steer them, and I narrow the conversation. I want to know, did you like the products, the business, or maybe a kind of a combination of the two? I'm going to steer them. I'll make it so narrow. People like choices. I give them 3 choices. They choose one of them every time. And which one do you think they normally choose? When I frame it that way, when I say, do you like the product, the business, or a combination of the two, which one? It's
combination.
It's actually a combination of the two. That's what they normally say. And does anybody know why? It's more. Yes, they don't want to miss out. There's sort of a fear of loss factor. Now, they might be thinking in their mind, man, I could care less about that pond water. I just want to talk about the business. But they don't want to miss out on me. They don't want to, like, cut that bridge, right? They want to at least have that bridge there where they can learn about both. If I frame the question that way, normally they say both. So here's what that does. That gives me free reign to lead the conversation from that point on in any direction that I so choose. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Now, whatever Scott says. Now, Scott, what did he say? He said the business, time freedom. So whatever he says, at that point, I just agree. I say, Me too. Because I like it all. I like the products, I like the business, I like both. So whatever he says, it's easy for me to agree. So I just say, me too, Scott. That's one of the things that really stood out to me when I first took a look at this. I wanted time freedom. I wanted to have a business on the side that could produce residual income. Right? That's one of the things that stood out to me. Me too. Then I move on to the next question, which is, what questions do you have? Okay? What questions do you have?
How do you get started?
That's a great question. I tell you what, hold on one second. I want to get that answered for you the right way. So just hold on one second. All right, so the concept is, what questions do you have? You can frame these. You can do this any old way you choose, however you want. The concept is this, but my tactic, the specific way that I say it is, Scott, what questions do you have that I can get answered for you? That's how I say it. What questions do you have that I can get answered for you? That's how I say it, okay? Now Scott says, how do I get started, or whatever his question is. I don't care what his question is. What he might say, Brandon, is the sky blue? I'm going to say, that's a great question. Hold on one second. I want to get that answered for you the right way. He might say, Brandon, what color underwear are you wearing? I'm going to say, Scott, that's a great question. I had some similar questions like that when I first took a look at this. I tell you what, I want to get that answered for you the right way, so hold on one second. I don't care what his question is, my response is the same every time. Systematic. Here's why. Because it's not, and this is a key phrase to remember, the process is more important than the content. It's not necessarily about Scott getting his question answered. It's about how his question is being answered. It's about the process that I'm leading him through, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'll wrap this up and tie it in a pretty bow. So Scott, it says, how do I get started, or whatever his question might be. I said, it's a great question, Scott. I had some similar questions like that when I first took a look. I tell you what, hold on one second, because I want to get that answered for you the right way. John, I texted him earlier in the day. He said he was ready to rock. I said, John, man, hey, so I called John. Scott's on hold. Hey, John, listen, man, I got Scott on the line. He's got 2 kids, beautiful family, CEO of a company. He's ready to rock. He just has a couple questions. Can you share your story and answer his questions?
Absolutely.
Awesome. I connect John and Scott, and here's what I do. This is key. I start building John up. I say, Scott, here's what I did, because like I said, I want you to get your question answered, but I want you to get it answered the right way. I want you to see how this works. Instead of just telling you, I want to model it for you. And so this is the tactic. That's how I typically say this. I want to model it for you. I want you to see how this works. I don't want to just tell you. So I want you to see it the way that I saw it, so that you can feel it the way that I feel it. And so what I did is I brought a business partner of mine on. His name's John. He's incredible. He's a top leader, top trainer, top presenter. He loves helping people. He's a servant leader. Just a phenomenal guy. He's intelligent, freaking genius. He's bulletproof and glows in the dark and 8 feet tall. Right? What am I doing? I'm building John up. Why am I building John up? Because I want Scott to know that John is an expert and that John is He's never met John. He doesn't know John, right? So I want Scott to know John is qualified to answer his question and handle any objections and steer him in the right direction. Okay. Now here's what John's going to do. I'm going to say, John. So I'm going to turn the call over to you, John. John says, great, thanks, man. I appreciate it. John will then. This is why this is so important for me to build John up. I hit mute on my phone. I step back. I don't talk again until the call's over. I don't interrupt, right? Because then I spent all this time building John up. I'm not going to rip the rug out from underneath him, right? He's got all this credibility now in Scott's eyes. And if I start talking, Scott's going to be like, well, why did you even bring John on the phone in the first place? If you were just going to interrupt him the whole time. That's what he's going to be thinking. So I don't interrupt. I hit mute. I don't talk. Say, John, I'll turn it over to you. John takes the call. Here's what he's going to then do. He's going to build me up. So I built John up. He's got all the credibility. And then John is going to say, Scott, listen, man, you're attached to a great guy with Brandon. He's the best looking guy on the planet. Super intelligent. He's got all the skills. He knows all the right people, right? So he's going to build me up.
He's right. That's exactly what I said.
And he puts me on a pedestal. Here's why that's important, guys. Because some of your friends and family are just simply not going to listen to you because you have zero credibility with them. Yeah, you just have to be okay with that. They know all the stupid stuff you've done in your life, right? They still love you, right? That's how you know they're family and friends. Friends are those wonderful people that know all about you and they still love you,
That's
right? But here's the deal. You have zero credibility with them when it comes to building business or nutrition or any of these topics. You just have to be okay with that. So they know about all the banks you robbed and all the dead bodies in your backyard and all that stuff. They still love you, but you just don't have credibility with them in terms of this yet, until John builds you up. And now here's what here's what Scott's gonna be thinking. And me and Scott might be high school buddies, and he knows all the he knows I'm not a self-made multimillionaire. He knows I'm a screw up or whatever. I've done stupid stuff in my life, right? Well, Scott is now gonna be thinking, man, this John guy who's an expert, he obviously thinks highly of Brandon when it comes to the business. So at least in regards to Zija going forward, Scott, I have some credibility with Scott now, at least in regards to Zija. Does that make sense? So now I'm going to my words will carry more weight, at least in regards to Zija, because now it's a concept I call borrowing credibility. I've now borrowed credibility from the person that's the expert, okay? This is an incredible psychological tactic where now I have a little bit of credibility with my prospect. Now some of you guys that aren't doing this, you're missing out. And this is why people won't listen to you, because you don't. I mean, I was 23 years old when I got started. I didn't have any credibility. I had to borrow credibility. I had to build someone up, and then let them build me up, so that I could get at least an ounce of credibility going forward. Does that make sense? All right. So, and then I step back, mute. I don't talk. John steers him. John finds out what his questions are, answers them, steers him to the next step, and says, either he's ready to rock or he's not. Either he's ready to get started. If he's not, then just lead him to the next step. It's always next. I'll talk about that in a second too. Everybody feel good about that?
Yep.
Okay. So peak interest, pass to a tool, plug into an expert, and then there's these three questions. Did you look? What did you like best? What questions do you have? It's a great question. Hold on one second. Okay. So I gave you the concept. I gave you the tactic of exactly how I say it. All right. So I want to move on real quick because just for time's sake, this is the. Let me give you one more thing actually with peak interest. I'll give you my three component formula here that I always try to do when I'm peaking interest. Okay, when I'm prospecting people, it's 1, 2, 3. Edify, ask questions, and share stories. Okay. Now when I asked Chris Estes, when I sat down with him for the first time, I said, Chris, what do I say to people? Here's Chris's response to me. He says, I don't care what you say to them. He said, they're not going to remember what you say anyway. They're only going to remember how you made them feel. That's it. After the conversation is over, they should feel better than they did before the conversation started, right? Because they're not expecting you to call them, right? They don't know that, they don't know that you're going to talk to them about this. So they have no preconception or preconceived notion about that. So just edify. So Chris had a one component formula at least when he told me this several years ago. He said, man, I don't care what you say, just make them feel better. Just edify them. If you edify people enough, they'll do whatever you tell them to. If you make people feel good enough, they're going to do what you tell them, especially if it's something as simple as just asking them to take a look. That's all we're ever doing. We ask people to take a look. If I send you a link to a couple videos, we take a look at it today. Great. If I've edified him and he feels like a stinking rock star since he's been on the phone with me and he feels awesome, he's going to do that because he's like, man, I like that Brandon guy, right? Does that make sense? People do business with people they like and trust. And on the contrary, people don't do business with people they don't like and don't trust, right? You can have, Zija could be it could be, doing all kinds, healing, diseases and whatever. It could be doing all kinds of craziness. And it could be the best product on the market, and you just sign up and make $1 billion your first week, and right. But if they don't like you, they're not going to join you. Does that make sense?
They'll join
all right.
someone else.
So edify them, and then also I just added to it because I found that after I started edifying people, if I do these other two things too, I just found that it helps me in getting people to take a look. I ask questions. So Scott, what are you doing these days, man? Are you're I heard you're the CEO of a company. I heard you got a great family, and tell me about you. Ask questions, and the questions can stem from FORM: family, occupation, recreation, and money. So edify, ask questions, and share stories. The share stories part is this. Scott, man, I was thinking of you today, and the reason why I called is because I want you to take a look at something. But I thought of you because I know another guy that reminds me a lot of you. He's done very well in life. He's very successful, just like you. And you know, he's got a lot of great contacts, and you guys you really remind me of each other. His name's Barry, and so I thought of you. He's got some of the same qualities as you, and you guys remind me so much of each other. And he is killing it in this other business. He's making a ton of money in this other business. And I know you always keep your options open when it comes to making money. That's why you've done well. You know, you have an open mind. And so if I shoot you a link to a couple videos, in fact, I'll shoot you a link to that guy. He's got his own video. I'll shoot you a link to his video. I might even be able to get you on the phone with him at some point. If I shoot you a link to his video, will you take a look at it today?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I shared a story. And the reason why I'm sharing a story is to connect. Okay? So edify to make them feel good. Ask questions so that they know. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right? So I ask questions to let him know I care. And let him know I'm listening. And I respond to his questions. And I answer his questions. And I have conversation, right? Just be a human being. Like, just be genuine. And if you do that, people will know you care. And then share stories to connect. So he's thinking, man, this guy's just like me. This guy Brandon keeps talking about, he's just like me, and he's having a lot of success. So it's reasonable to think that I could have a lot of success because I'm just like that guy that Brandon keeps talking about. Does that make sense? So you're connecting. Okay? All right, so that's my 3-component formula there. And I'll give you the 2 questions, the psychology behind all of this. Why do we do things the way we do? Because people are asking themselves 2 questions subconsciously. Whether they realize it or not, you guys were first-time guests today, right? Whether you realize it or not, it's your first exposure to an event, whether you realize it or not, you're currently asking yourself these 2 questions. Whether you realize it or not. Subconsciously in the back of your mind, you might have actually said it out loud or thought it, but even if you haven't, you're asking yourself these 2 questions. Is it a good idea? So is it a good idea? Is it a good idea? Does it make sense? That's what you're asking yourself. Is it a good idea? Does it make sense? This is what this is what I asked myself when I first took a look at this. The second question is, can I do it? Can I do it? That's the second question. This question is easy for us to answer. Of course it's a good idea. It's the most nutrient-rich plant ever discovered on planet Earth, right? Do I have to twist your arm into thinking that's a good idea? You know what I mean? And as far as the business goes, Ken Brailsford's the only person who's ever built and sustained 2 other multi-hundred-million-dollar companies that still exist today. And this is his 3rd. You guys know what the odds of that are? 1 in a billion. 1 in a billion odds, statistically speaking, that one person could build 3 companies that surpass 100 million plus. That means there's 7 people on the planet that could even do it. What's my point? This is not an accident. This is on purpose, calculated. This is chess. Ken Brailsford and Rod Larson know where we will be 10 years from now. Why? Because Ken's already done it twice. Got the t-shirt 2 times. Right? So, that's easy to answer. Is it a good idea? If people slow down and look at the facts, if you get people to slow down and look at the facts, which we're teaching you how to do, right? If you follow our system, they do. They're going to agree that of course it's a good idea. The problem is, how did you deliver those facts? Was it you doing a bunch of this? Because if it was, here's what's going to happen. When they get to this question, can I do it? That's where people start dropping like flies. Because if you're doing a bunch of this, maybe you're a good salesman. What does that do to the person in their mind? They say, well, of course John can do it. He's a great salesman. He's great at talking. He loves talking. But I don't. I'm scared and timid and I'm shy and I don't like talking. I don't like sales. I'm not good at it. So of course John can be successful at it, but I can't. They'll start creating excuses in their mind because you're giving them excuses by talking. Does that make sense? All right, so can I do it? That's a harder question for us to answer. That's why that key phrase I told you guys earlier, the process is more important than the content. Scott, in this process, where I've connected him to John earlier, Scott is going to learn all of the content along the way. He's going to find out about Moringa and Ken Brailsford and all that, and network marketing and all that. The problem is, if I've delivered the info, Scott is going to then answer this question with a no. He's going to say, no, I can't do, or I don't. It's either can I do it, or do I want to do it?
Mhm.
So if he can't do it or he doesn't want to do it, guess what? He won't do it. Right? That's pretty logical. So our job is to not focus on the content. The content's all the same. He's going to learn about all the content. Our job is to focus more on the process that we lead people through. So if you get the process correct, the content, you know, whether they hear it from your mouth or whether they hear it from a video or whether if they hear it using our system, they're going to agree, if they truly look at the facts, they're going to agree that the most nutrient-rich plant ever discovered in Ken Brailsford are a good idea, and it makes sense. This is the harder question for us to answer. That's why all this is so important, okay? The process is more important than the content. Now, here's what it looks like when you get started. Make a list. I teach people to make 3 lists. If you want to categorize it, I encourage you, you know, get specific. Don't be careless here. You know why people quit? You know why people fail in this business, in any network marketing business? Because they quit. That's why they quit. That's why they fail. You know why they quit? Because they get frustrated. You know why they get frustrated? Because they've never been shown something that they can do. But the number one reason why people get frustrated, or the number one excuse that people give for quitting, is because they run out of people to talk to. Right? Does that make sense? They say they run out of people to talk to. Here's what most people do. They have a lottery mentality. They think of their 4, 5, 6 closest friends and family. Okay? And then they go talk to those people, probably doing a lot of this instead of doing a lot of this. And they do it incorrectly. And so what happens? They run some of those people off, you know, not on purpose. Because they just did it incorrectly, they run some of those people off in the beginning. And they say, well, I talk to everybody I know. It's like a scratch off, right? Mom, brother, sister, uncle, best friend, scratch them off. No, no, and then they toss it in the gas station parking lot, right? That's what most people do. And it was easy to get in because it was only $13.20. Anybody can find a way to come up with that, right? I was broke, but I could find a way. And so it's easy to get in. It's also easy to get out. It's easy to walk away from and say, well, that was just one of those little bad deals, one of those bad decisions I made. And then they run around saying, well, Zija doesn't work, or network marketing don't work. No, baloney. You didn't learn how to make it work, right? It was easy for me to, I said, well, of course it works, right? That dude don't have a job, right? I saw people that, I was like, of course it works. The question is, how do we make it work? And of course, this is how. So, but most people never do what you guys are even doing. Most people never take the time to sit here for a few minutes, slow down. You know, Abraham Lincoln, I love the way he put it. He said, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. The way that translates